Non-Monogamy Help is a podcast where your questions about open, non-monogamous or polyamorous relationships are answered. Our host, Lola Phoenix, will consult a licensed therapist with over a decade of experience to address your problems. Names and locations have been changed or censored to keep your questions anonymous. You're listening to Non-Monogamy Help, the podcast.
Hello and welcome to episode 79 of the Non-Monogamy Help podcast. I'm Lola Phoenix. Please send your questions to nonmonogamyhelp@gmail.com and they'll either be read in the podcast or the column anonymously. If you would like to read the columns and listen to the podcast, you can go to nonmonogamyhelp.com, subscribe to our newsletter by going to go.nonmonogamyhelp.com/email, and you can follow us on Twitter and Instagram at nonmonogamyhelp. If you want to support the columns and the podcast, it would be awesome if you would be consider becoming a patron. Even $1 a month can help support the daily running of the columns and podcasts, and it just shows me a general vote of support. I really appreciate it, and you can do that by going to patreon.com/Lola Phoenix. And if you donate $5 or more a month, your name, with your permission, will be read at the end of the podcast. Let's get to this week's discussion question. If this is the first episode you're hearing, every week before I read the letter, I put forth a discussion question that you can use with your friends, partners, metamors, anyone else to get to know them better. I also answer it myself briefly to give you a little bit of context. This week's discussion question is, how do you feel about giving your friends details about your relationships? I think this is an interesting question because I feel like friends are really great confidants at times, depending on the kind of friendship you have. And if you read Why Does He Do That by Lundy Bancroft, which is a book I constantly recommend just because of how it really helped me, then one of the things that you notice is that, generally speaking, when people act abusively, they are going to try and isolate you and keep you away from your friends and your family. And I think that one of the reasons that they do that is not just to kind of, make it so that you don't have anyone to help you, but also because friends are generally sometimes the first people to help you kind of reality check or sense check yourself. So I do think that sometimes it's important to have friends who you can really talk to, like, not be your therapist because that's a separate thing, but just people who can give you like third person feedback and kind of be a little bit in your corner about your relationships. So I think, I would want any partner that I have to have a friend that they could talk to about me and, might include some information that would be super private, but as long as it was between that friend and it wasn't like between a whole group of people or anywhere where it could be seen outside of, that friendship, then I think it's actually really important. So that's what my brief answer to that question. I think that there's a lot to discuss there, but overall that is my answer to that question. So I'll go through it one more time. How do you feel about giving your friends details about your relationships? Let's get to this week's letter. I'm reaching out because I feel my situation is very unique. Though I feel confident in the steps I'm going to take, I would appreciate your outside insight into this situation. Involved are me, 25, ethically non-monogamous, kinky, friends with K, interested in having something with T. K is 25, monogamous, asexual, friends with me, friends and roommates with T, one of 5 roommates. T is 24, wants to explore ethical non-monogamy, kinky, friends and roommates with K, interested in having sex with me. K introduced T and I around May of 2021. We clicked as friends and the relationship did not deepen. In August 2021, T moved with 2 friends to the city to live with K. Also around that time, I experienced a traumatic accident that left me incapable of caring for myself until September 2021. While I was incapacitated, T made a significant effort to contact me virtually and spend some time with me in person. I became more independent and T and I scheduled some time to spend together. During this time, we began by cuddling platonically and concluded by making out consensually. I told him that I was ethically non-monogamous and he asked if he could kiss me. When T got home from this, he told K about what had happened in the interest of being open and honest. K was very upset and asked to speak to me the next day. When Kay and I spoke, she told me that the idea of two of her close friends sleeping together made her uncomfortable. Additionally, she shared that she still had some feelings for T. They had had a near miss romantically about 4 years ago. Kay is currently in a monogamous relationship and has been for 3 years. She also reasoned that my ex-partner L's living situation had gone south while we were together, and that she predicted her living situation with T would do the same if we hooked up. I ended the conversation by stating that I'd like to take a week to think about this and would get back to her. In that time, I spoke with T, who Kay had also expressed her discomfort to, and we decided that neither of us wanted to live inauthentically or without autonomy to have relationships how we deem fit. After a week, I began trying to make plans with Kay to talk. I was repeatedly blown off and unable to create time to speak until about 2.5 weeks after our initial conversation. When we spoke again, I tried to make a lot of space for Kay's feelings by asking for further understanding of her discomfort. I learned that she does not want us to be a quote-unquote polyam experiment together, which I feel ignores the fact that T and I have fantastic communication and a desire to be friends above all. However, when I began to express my own feelings, they were disregarded. This is made especially difficult by Kay's desire to not be spoken to about sex and sexual matters. T and I are both kinky and would like to be able to safely explore kink together, but neither of us feel we can share this aspect of our desire for a sexual relationship with Kay. When I expressed that I wanted to pursue a sexual relationship with T, Kay ended the conversation and walked away. This conversation with Kay was followed by a significant unkindness on her part towards T and a threat to move out. To ease the tension, T said that we would keep things friendly, which neither of us want to be, just friendly. I understand T not wanting this to negatively impact his living situation, and now no longer feel like the decision to act is in my hands. Any advice that I can share with T would be greatly appreciated. As far as my actions go, I think I would like to define with T what a friendship would look like for either of us. This is difficult to do with such a strong sexual desire, but as I cannot make it the decision for T to be true to himself, I'm making the only decision I can. This entire situation has been frustrating, confusing, and a little painful. I never expected to receive a veto from a friend, and I'm feeling very hurt by it. Before we get to this week's answer, I'm going to quickly plug this episode's sponsor, BetterHelp. Quite often in a lot of my columns and podcasts, I encourage people to see a polyamory-friendly therapist, and for a lot of people, looking locally for a therapist who may be supportive of polyamory can be impossible, out of their budget, or just really, really difficult. BetterHelp allows you to find therapists online that you can send messages to at any time of the day, and they do offer some financial aid. You can get 10% off your first month by using the promo code Non-Monogamy or going to betterhelp.com/non-monogamy. Let's get to this week's answer. Why is Kay so involved? I have read through your letter quite a few times, and I'm really, really searching for a reason as to why Kay is so involved in this situation. Kay is monogamous. To the best of my understanding, Kay had somewhat of a maybe relationship with T 4 years ago, but has been monogamous for 3 years with someone else. I don't know why any of this is any of Kay's business, to be quite frank. Like, understandably, you're friends with Kay and T's friends with Kay, and it's a little weird sometimes when two friends hook up, and sometimes when they do that, they totally ignore you, and that's awkward. But Kay doesn't need to know all this information. Like, why does Kay need to know about your sex life? Why do you need to share the kinky stuff you do with T with Kay? Why? I don't understand why at all this needs to happen, especially if Kay's asexual. Like, I can understand Kay not wanting to know, especially also if Kay had a little bit of a thing for T. Like, it's okay for Kay to feel like, oh man, that sucks, I'm kind of sad, I'm a little bit bummed about it. That's fine, but Kay, why? Kay doesn't need to know. If anything, I would think you guys don't want to share your sex life with Kay, because Kay doesn't have any reason to want to know that information. Just because you're friends doesn't mean that Kay needs to know your details. I have friends, some friends I know some of the stuff about their sex life because we have that kind of friendship. I have friends I don't know anything about what they get up to, and that's fine. Why does Kay need to know about this? Stop sharing your sex life with Kay. It doesn't sound like she wants to know, and I don't know if she's incapable of, like, really setting down those boundaries with you. She hasn't technically vetoed anything. It's just that you both don't want her to be upset. So you're walking around on eggshells because you don't want to be upset. I think because you've decided that you not only want to be together, but you, for some reason, want to be together and feel it necessary that Kay is not only happy about that, but also that Kay knows what y'all get up to. She is monogamous with her own deal going on. Do you know about what Kay does with her partner? No, I don't think you know that. I mean, just because she's asexual doesn't mean she doesn't do anything. So no, you gotta stop sharing your sex life with Kay. There's no reason. Now, this whole thing, like, it seems like Kay is also not really telling you fully why it bothers her. And she's got this, like, story about, oh, I'm afraid my living situation is going to get weird. I can understand that a little bit, but here's the thing. What about the situation with Elle? So you said that Kay has said that you had a ex-partner with, like, living with her, I guess, and that didn't work out, and she doesn't want that same thing to happen. Okay. That's a reasonable grievance to have. It's hard out there to find new living situations, and they just moved in and they may have signed a year lease or maybe longer, and yeah, you don't want to end up in an uncomfortable living situation. I get that. That's fine. But what about that situation with Elle made it difficult? And can you not reassure, both of you, can you not reassure Kay that the same thing isn't going to happen? Kay doesn't need to be involved. And that's the thing. If you were all living together and you were all roommates, I could definitely understand why Kay would be really uncomfortable. But Kay is only living with T. And that's it. So, maybe you don't go around there. But whatever negotiations you can make, fine. But if you are kind of putting Kay in a position where she has to hear about your, like, why do you need to tell her that? Maybe she's just not the kind of friend that you share your sex life with. She doesn't have to be. You can have other friends for that. So I think that you need to figure out if there is some type of compromise situation in terms of Kay worrying about her living situation. Like, that's the only thing that's really any of her business. Period. Like, it's not her business. She may be upset. She may have feelings about it, and that's fine because she was interested in T at one point. But she is monogamous. She's with somebody else. She can have all the feelings she likes, but that doesn't mean she gets to tell you who you can date. No, absolutely not. And if she's really gonna be so upset about the situation that she's not gonna be friends with you, then I think that you need to wonder how good of a friend Kay is, or how much she's gonna be there for you. Because I just feel like if a friend is mad at you that you are with somebody that they liked 4 years ago, and she isn't going to let it go. She isn't going to, deal with her feelings on her own and deal with all of that, because I can understand. That's sad sometimes, and you introduce them, and that's kind of ironic and messed up, but T doesn't sound like, it's not even Kay's business of whether T is whether you're experimenting together. She is not T's guardian. That's not, no. So you got to figure out what exactly about this L situation. Can you and T both agree on some type of compromise with the living situation, whether or not you go over there and are kissy huggy over there? Can you find some compromise in that? But bottom line, Kay is not in charge of either of you. Kay is not in charge of you. Stop making decisions on your relationship, and that's a big problem that you need to deal with when it comes to T. Because that is a big thing that I think a lot of people, when they're, when they start off in non-monogamy, and I mean, it's not even non-monogamy, to be honest. I think it is even monogamy. Like, when you don't have the ability to deal with the fact that a decision that you make might upset somebody else, but it's in your best interest, and then you don't make that decision because you don't want to upset somebody else. And understandably, like, T doesn't want drama in his living situation. I get that as well. But also, maybe half of the drama is y'all involving Kay so much to begin with. She's not in charge of either of you. She doesn't get to decide who you date. She doesn't get to decide if T decides to experiment with polyamory. She is in a relationship of her own that is monogamous. She may be your friend, but she does not need to officiate your relationship. And she is way too involved in this situation. Way too involved. And I understand, like, I'm not trying to say that she is, and I don't even know if she's trying to be involved. That's the thing about this, is that she's walked away from you When you were trying to basically ask for her permission to have a sexual relationship with T, she ended the conversation by walking away. Like, why does she need to know that? Like, maybe, yeah, if y'all hooked up a little bit, but what? That's the thing, is like, why did T tell K about that? Why is that relevant information? I don't need to know if 2 of my friends have made out. I don't need to know that. They're adults. I'm not their parent. So y'all have to stop approaching this situation as though you need Kay's sign off and that she needs to approve every step of the way. She's not your chaperone. And I don't know if she's asking to be. So please, maybe y'all 3 need to sit down and be like, look, me and T, we're going to have a relationship because it's what we want to do as grown adults. I absolutely understand if you are worried about your living situation. T, to be fair, is also worried about his living situation. So let's examine what it is about the situation that makes us worried, and we can address it out in the open, straightforward. Now, you've said that you tried to have a conversation with Kay, and she, like, put the conversation off and kept, like, blowing you off. I mean, that doesn't sound very good in general, just as a friend. Like, if she's your friend, I know that this is awkward and weird, especially if you were trying to involve her. She doesn't need to know about your sexual relationship. But she should be able to be like, stop telling me. Stop telling me about what you and T do. I don't want to know. And if she's not able to do that, then there are going to be lots of problems in your friendship later on. You know, if she's not basically able to have a conversation with you, or basically able to just say, you know what, I don't want to talk about this. It just sounds like she's not very good at that. And it might be that this, you know, T might have to endure a little bit of upset. You both might have to endure a little bit of her upset for a bit. But at the end of the day, if y'all are together and you're doing your own thing and you're not telling her and she doesn't need to know, I hope that she's not demanding to know, because that's weird. And, you know, maybe you make the compromise that y'all aren't canoodling at the shared house. That's fine. But other than that, how is she even going to know? How is she even know? You know what I mean? So, yeah, to sum up, y'all stop involving Kay in so much in this. And if she's asking to be this involved, that is not a good thing. And you need to say, no, no, you are monogamous and you're my friend, but this isn't your relationship. No. And have a discussion about it with her, even if it takes you 2.5 weeks to organize. Sit all down like grown adults, sit together and be like, okay, you're worried about me and T hooking up because of some other situation that happened. Let's talk about that situation, figure out what it was that made you uncomfortable, and we can work on some compromises. But don't stop, both you and T, stop not being together because of a friend who she can't veto your relationship. Like, okay, you might lose a friend. That sucks, but have you lost that friend because you're together? Have you lost that friend because they're weirdly involved in your love life when they have their own? Ask yourself that question, you know? I hope that helps, and good luck. Thank you for listening to episode 79 of Non-Monogamy Help. If you want to be awesome, you can donate to our Patreon. Donating $5 or more means your name, with your permission, of course, will be read at the end of the podcast. This week's current patrons are Laura Boylan, Chris Albury-Jones, Juke, Ellen Robertson, Nikki Jones, James Wartell, and Leo Yaki. If for whatever reason you can't become a patron, because I get it, life happens, if you can take 5 minutes to log into iTunes, find the podcast, rate and review it, that would be helpful. It helps me get the podcast out there to new people. If you don't want to write a review and you just want to do a rating, that's also appreciated. So yeah, if you have 5 minutes to spare, please do that if you can. That's all for this week. You'll get a new column next Friday, and then another podcast episode in a fortnight, and then the week after that, there will be a break. Thank you again for listening. You've been listening to Non-Monogamy Help. Our podcast music has been provided by Chris Albury-Jones at albury-jones.com, and the art was made by Dom Jung at domduong.com. Thank you for listening.